Okay, so my name's Adil, and so I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to let you decide what talk I'm going to give. You've got two choices. There's a wrong choice and a right choice. So number one is a talk I've given before. It's well rehearsed. It's got some jokes. It's got a beginning and a middle and an end. It's going to make you feel good about life. Like, it really make you feel good about life. Sorry? Maybe. And it's about old people. Everyone loves old people. After cats, the next thing that everyone loves is old people. The second talk, I've never given except for in my head, and in my tent just now, it was a bit wobbly. It's got a beginning and a middle, and then it basically just stops. It's not going to help you in any way. Like, it's probably going to get in your way. It's going to leave you like mainly bewildered and a bit bemused. And it's called The Dark Side of Doing Good. All right, so who wants to hear the happy talk about elders? One. Okay. Who wants to hear the talk about the dark side of doing good? All right, very good. Right. To be honest, I was going to do that anyway. It's Pakistani democracy, right? I ask you and I do what I want. Okay, so my life has kind of been in and around good for like many, many years. So you know those dudes who have like a trestle table in the town square and they're 14 and they should be out like sleeping with girls by getting you to sign petitions to like against animal testing? That was me. I started a business in mental health and we're helping people with anxiety and depression. It's called Buddy. I'll talk about that in a minute. I started another business called The Amazings, which is about sharing the skills and the knowledge and the wisdom of elders. Don't tell Mark that I've already got the company that he's trying to come up with. I've worked at Amnesty International for a number of years. I developed campaigns on domestic violence, the arms trade, not for arms trade, against the arms trade, what else? Online censorship, and the war on terror. So basically, I've built my career from man's inhumanity. It's quite good. And what else have I been doing? So last year, I was voted by The Observer and Nesta as one of Britain's new radicals, making Britain a better place to be. Partly telling that story mainly because it's quite disturbing to be a Muslim with a beard, to be known as a radical. Hey, Mum, look, I'm on a list of Britain's new radicals. Just below Abu Qatada, there you go. So anyway, so look, I've been doing good and interested in good and for good for like all my life, right? But lately I started to think like good is this like slippery thing, and good maybe isn't as good as I thought it might be. So I'm just going to give you a few examples. Number one is like Buddy. So Buddy is an app for people with mental health problems. It's an SMS thing. It basically allows you to keep a diary of what you're doing and how you're feeling by text. Really simple, really elegant, no smartphones. And then the point is it creates like a little web diary and then you review it with your therapist and you set some goals, spot patterns and hopefully get better. So I've been working on Buddy for about 2 years. I'm mainly trying to figure out like how to make it real. And I remember once I was at an event and there was a VC. Apparently you go talk to VCs. They've got money. That's a good thing. So I went up to him and I pitched him after the event. I pitched him, gave him my best pitch. And he looked at me and he just went, "So who gets fired?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Well, who gets fired?" And I was like, "No one, you know. We're not trying to help people lose their jobs." And he was like, "Well, then you haven't got a business." And I was like, and I think the point he was trying to make was that we sell into the NHS. And we talk about, you know, in our sales pitches, it's about productivity, it's about efficiency. But what that actually means is that people lose their jobs. And he was like laying it out for me to say that if you want this business to succeed, people need to lose their jobs. Which is a weird thing, right? Like, that's not why you do it. And not least in mental health, where the number one reason for people getting mental health illnesses is largely to do with work. So unless it's like some really clever ruse on my part to help people with mental health problems by getting them the sack and creating people with mental health problems, it wasn't really what we were trying to do. And I started thinking, like, when does good create bad? And how do you know what bad will be created by your good? You know, there's a term, it's the the law of unintended consequences. I like the idea that it's called the law of. It means it's serious. But it's interesting, right? Like, how do you know what will really happen from the thing that you're doing? You know, like the Industrial Revolution was meant to save us from the tyranny of like an arable existence, and it created mass unemployment and Leicester. And like, that's not a good thing, right? So here, have you ever been through Leicester? Just keep going. What was my second point? Oh yeah, and the other thing with Buddy was we started off working with people with chronic mental health problems. And what that basically is people with serious, long-term, lifelong mental health problems, like 10, 20, 30 years, psychotic issues, the whole works. And we gave up. We gave up because it was too hard. We gave up because, like, you know, they're people with complex conditions, that's the label. That's because it's really complicated to work with them. You know, the services are fucked. The services were invented in the 80s and they're still in the 80s. You know, never mind computers, you'd be hard-pushed to find a calculator. It's just, like, really, really hard. And we just gave up. And now we're working with people with anxiety and depression, which is, you know, a problem, but it's not the problem, right? And so sometimes I start thinking, like, is this just, like, an easy way out? You know, should we really be thinking about, if we start thinking about people with anxiety and depression, maybe we end up, you know, helping people who are mildly stressed. Or maybe I should make, like, executive toys. You know, like, at what point is good good? You know, at what point is good good enough? You know, who decides what impact is? You know, actually, in my kind of Woody Allen moments, I'm thinking, like, motherfucker, I'm like, I should be thinking about the unspeakable atrocities around the world, and here I am, like, helping people being a little bit less stressed. You know, so, like, is good like an avoidance from doing good? It's becoming a bit deep now. I don't really have any answers. Okay, so that's another thing. And connected to that is this other idea, is that I care, but I care just enough. Which is another way of saying I don't care too much. And I actually think that's one of my kind of strengths, oddly. I'm sure some people might not be thinking that right now. But it's ability to kind of be flexible and focus on the thing that you can fix rather than the thing that you can't fix. You know, so the Amazings is a good example. So we're about elders sharing skills, but it's called the Amazings. It's not called the Averages, right? You know, there's a lot of people that we don't work with, you know, who are maybe, you know, have got skills, who have got knowledge, but don't fit what we do, and we don't include them. Like, is that a good thing? Who's doing anything about the averages? So that's another thought. Where do I go next? Right, I've got some notes. Hold on. Okay. Oh, yeah. I really admire those people who start businesses who everything they do is like pure, you know? Like they're helping people who are homeless and they are helping, you know, them become opera singers, and they employ people who are like immigrants, like locally sourced immigrant labour, and they only sit on like furniture that's recycled with inners of bicycle tires and stuff like that. But I don't give a fuck about like recycled paper and things like that. It's really weird. Like I sort of think I'm trying to help older people. And that tends to mean that I tend to not care about other stuff, you know? Like, I wish I really could care about all the other stuff, but I don't. And it's sort of weird that I sort of find myself thinking, well, people think, oh, you're doing a good thing. I'm like, yeah, I am. There's loads of other things that I don't really care about. Anyway, that's just a thought. Another one. I don't know where these goes. So Forrest Gump, you know that scene in Forrest Gump where he like runs and everybody joins him and like it becomes like this big crowd? It's not like that. It's really not fucking like that. It's like I've got about 6 people who are running along with me, and we've been running for months, you know? It's just not like no one believes you. Well, no, some people believe you, but more people will always not believe you. Like, honestly, however big you are, so whatever like proof point we get to, milestone we get to, traction that we get, there's always more people who don't fucking believe you. It's really annoying. And it really winds me up. So I interviewed this guy the other day, and this is like fresh, so I don't know where this goes. But like most of this talk. He's really talented. He's an interaction designer. We really loved him. He was like, I love the Amazings. I love what you're doing. It sounds great. I thought, great, we're going to hire him. He phoned me up, and he was like, actually, motherfucker, he did it by email. He said, I love what you're doing, but I'm really interested in mobile right now. I was like, what? Like, really interested in mobile. You love what we do. You love the idea that we're spreading wisdom, but what he wants to really focus on now is mobile. It's like, that's not a thing, you know? That's not a thing. That's not a thing, right? I've worked really hard to create this thing, and people are doing it, and we're sharing, and people are investing in it, and it's growing, and it's a great thing. You want to work on mobile? What the fuck is that? And I swear to you, at least 10, maybe 12% of my motivation now is to prove that motherfucker wrong. You know? And like, it's weird. Like, I wish my good came from like always from a good place, but it doesn't. It's sometimes like it comes from like a really dark place, often like revenge and like stuff like that. How am I doing on time? Where am I? 10 minutes. I haven't got 10 minutes worth of talk. How do I drag this out? How am I doing so far? Is that all right? Yeah. Okay. The other thing is like maybe a bit personal. So I'm good. I don't know. Am I an okay dad? I'm a good dad, maybe. No, I'm turning into Woody Allen. But you know, but like there are times when I'm like, you know, I'm there with my children, but I'm not really there. You know, and I think some of us kind of recognise that. You know, I have missed birthdays, and actually, oddly, missing birthday, that time that I missed the birthday created a connection which was really useful to us, and I don't know where I stand on that, you know? Like, it was bad that I missed the birthday, but good for what I was doing. I'm definitely a bad husband, and she definitely puts up with me, you know? Like, last year I was totally in the doghouse, totally, like running 3 companies on the brink of basically collapse. Is like not good for your marriage. But I thought I was going to make it up to her. And so I booked a flight a weekend away to Venice. And I booked a really nice place to stay and a car to pick us up at the airport, and the whole works. And then we got to the UK airport, and there were no flights to Venice. And I checked in, and I was like, and I was at the right airport, and I realised I'd booked a flight to Vienna, where there was no nice place to stay and no car picking me up. And then it's funny now, it wasn't at the time. It totally ruined my holiday. Anyway, yeah, and then the thing was that she basically became another stick to beat me with, right? Which is like, I give so much attention to the thing that I'm doing that I'm not paying attention to, you know. So there's another thought I had, which is like, how can you feel compassion for the whole of humanity, but not for the human in front of you? Like, that's kind of dark, right? Like, I genuinely think, like, how can I have my head full of all these thoughts about doing good, but not think about the child in front of me? That's like, how do you reconcile those two things? I don't have any answer to that, right? Like, I go to like family gatherings or meet my friends, and I love my friends and I love my family, and I've got great friends and family. But when I'm there, I'm not there, you know? You know that feeling that you get where your head's like full, but it's also empty. And you're there and you feel like a kind of shadow of yourself. Like, this isn't me, and you don't really know, like, you feel kind of like less than human. That's the thing. Like, I think, like, you do what you do to try, for purpose, to make the world a better place, all that stuff. But then you find yourself feeling less than human. And it's just a strange thing. And I'm talking about it because it's in my mind at the moment. It's not actually the talk I wanted to give. But anyway, but like, you feel kind of hollowed out. Like, I don't know if you've had that feeling or that, where you just feel hollowed out. And like, we've got this thing when you come into Sidekick, which is another company I run, and on the floor it says, do something you love with the people you love. Yeah, and that's our motto. And the funny thing was, it took me like 15 years to learn that lesson, and that's what life's about, right? I wish my fucking careers advisor had told me. But that's the thing, like, do something you love. And I definitely, when you know, we interview kids, and when I do talks, I talk about do something you love. And it's a really nice thing to say, right? But the thing is, what is it when the thing that you love is the thing that hollows you out? Like, it's a really weird feeling, you know? Like, The Amazings is really, like, for me, I've totally fallen in love with the idea of learning from elders. It's a really big idea. It's not, but the thing is, it's not my idea or the team's idea or even the idea of The Amazings or even the community. And there's people in here who've come across it and have said some really kind words to me about it, and it's really, really, you know, heartening to know. But it's a much bigger idea, and I genuinely feel, and I talked to the team about it, that this is like an idea that we are the guardians of, you know, that we have to kind of nurture this and grow this and then create the right conditions for it to continue to kind of grow. It's always existed, and we're sort of reimagining it with digital tools, all the rest of it. But what is it to kind of like give yourself to an idea? That was kind of the thought that I sort of really prompted the rest of this talk, which is basically failures in my life. But what is it to give yourself to an idea? You know, what is it to kind of be dedicated to something, to be committed to something in a way that it becomes all-consuming, where you get consumed by it? Like, is that a good thing? I probably think yes, like, not least because you get a story and a talk out of it. But there's something about, like, you know, what is it about finding something that where you have to kind of give up something of yourself and the relationships around you and the people around you, and almost not have to think about what the problems this might create because you believe in the idea. You know, there's like a book I read when I was at school. It's called Les Fleurs du Mal, which is like a Baudelaire book, and it's about, like, translates as the flowers of evil. And so there's an idea of what good can come from bad, you know? But what about the terror of the rose? You know, I think that's really interesting, and that's where my talk ends.